Hello and welcome to Redirect Yourself. I'm Donna, and if you've never been here before, I'm so glad that you found us and that you made it today. I also hope that you will subscribe if you like the video. If you have been here before, I welcome you back. So glad you're here. Today, we're going to talk about another coping skill. One that I use quite often, especially at times when I'm very stressed out or when I'm having trouble in a relationship. Doesn't matter what relationship. So I'm sure if you're here, you have sought out some advice or other coping skills. Most of us have heard among the psychology community that journaling is very beneficial. What we generally don't know is why, okay? But they've done biofeedback studies. And the reason that we feel better when we write about our feelings, such as in a journal, is because actually writing pen to paper our feelings down has a physiological effect on our body. So what we noticed is that in biofeedback studies that our muscles relax, so the writing actually reduces muscle tension. We also begin to breathe more regularly. When we breathe regularly, we take in oxygen and oxygenate our blood. When we oxygenate our blood, we get more blood to our brain, and when we do that, we begin to think more clearly and logically. So folks who are prone to panic attacks or have a high level of anxiety can attest to the fact that when we are breathing shallowly, it is hard to think clearly. So if we're, right, it's difficult to catch your breath and oxygenate the blood, in which case it's very difficult to think logically and clearly. Thus, when a panic attack tends to come on, people often describe feeling as if they were dying. And although most folks know that that's not true, at least after the first time, it still feels that way because we're not able to think clearly. So one beneficial thing of writing our feelings down on a piece of paper is that we will get more relaxed physiologically. But not just journaling. So I don't want you to click off and go, she's telling us to journal like every other therapist does. Which, by the way, in case you didn't know, I am a therapist by trade. And I started this channel to make some coping skills more accessible to average people who are on the go and realize that they could do some things to cope better with the situations in their lives, and came here to find ways to do that. So what I recommend to clients, and this can be done on any relationship, about any person in your life that you have some negative feelings for, write them a letter. Now, this letter is unique in that you're not going to give it to the person. It doesn't get posted. You don't give it to them. You don't share it with anyone. It's between you and the post, basically. But the act of writing has the same physiological responses as if you were to write in a journal. But this has an added benefit. If there is a person in our life who we feel has hurt us or damaged us or even worse, abused us, especially verbal or emotional abuse that you can't physically heal from, it's emotional, yeah? And if you've learned anything here, and if you haven't, I urge you to go to some other channels, such as Where Do Our Feelings Come From, The Hula Hoop, and Garbage Words. Some great skills. But our feelings come from our thoughts. I have a whole video on that. Feel free to check it out. I don't do the whole link the videos below. I don't have that many videos on my channel. They're in categories, so you are able to go through and look at the different playlists. And there's one in there that is the hula hoop as well as Where Our Feelings Come From. So when we write a letter to a person who we see as an antagonist or a traumatizer or a person who hurt us, it doesn't even have to be that they were abusive, but we're still hurt. And maybe that person is no longer in our life, or even they're deceased. That's okay, because we don't need to involve them. They're not required to be present for our healing. What we do is we write a letter, sometimes a series of letters. So if you're angry, you write an angry letter. I sometimes would use this tool back when I wasn't yet a counselor. I had a boss who was a little bit toxic, I gotta tell ya. And I would begin to get upset and stressed out on the way to work before I even got there. So what I learned to do is to stop on those days that I was feeling this way, pull over, and write a letter to my boss, who I was actually going to see shortly, but I would not be giving the letter to the boss. because I learned that in doing it right in the moment, I was able to really de-stress and take away the negative feelings. So I suggest that if there is a situation like this in your life, whether it's from way long ago or not too long ago, write a letter to the person and really evaluate how resistant are you. The more resistant you are, the more meaningful the healing will be. So if you're resistant, that's okay. Don't beat yourself up. Do it when you're ready. And when you do sit down to write the letter, what I urge you to do is don't hold back. Remember, they're not going to see it. You can say anything you want to say. You can get it off your chest, so to speak. This is the place where you have permission to say the most horrible things that you wouldn't say in real life. They're not going to get it, and they're not going to know, but you get to get it out of you. If it's a sad letter or a letter of questioning why a person did what they did, all of these types of letters can be extremely helpful. A grief letter saying goodbye. If you didn't get to say goodbye because someone ghosted you and that feels unfinished, write them a letter telling them goodbye. If they don't get it, you won't send it. You read it to yourself. I typically advise my clients, and the practice that I use is that I typically, when I finish the letter, I put it away and then I revisit it anywhere from an hour to 24 hours later. And I see how I feel when I read it. And if I don't feel as triggered and I don't feel as emotional, that means some healing has begun. Now, sometimes this is a big deal and it might take you several letters. Other times, the deal will be done in one. Either way, I highly recommend that after you've written the letter and you've read it back and you've decided how you feel about it, that you destroy it. And you destroy it in a way that is meaningful and sort of would sit in as a ritual. We do rituals because they demark a point in time where we've had a phase of life change, such as, going from a boy to a man in a bat mitzvah, sweet 16s, quinceañeras, anniversaries, weddings, funerals, anniversaries. We do these rituals and ceremonies to mark a point in time. And it does actually affect our mind and our thinking when we have these celebrations or rituals. So I urge you to create a ritual surrounding the release of all the feelings that you put into the letter, of any neediness or things that you got out of the letter. You simply release them in a ritual format. Some people burn them in a coffee can, bury them in the backyard, to write it on tissue paper and release it into the ocean. We don't want to throw paper in the ocean, but something that isn't environmentally damaging. Put it in a balloon, release the balloon. There's a multitude of ways that you can create a ritual around your healing and in marking a point in time when you have decided to heal, when you have begun to let this go, whatever it is. And don't be hard on yourself, yeah? If it takes more than one letter, then it takes more than one letter. But I promise you, the feedback that I've gotten has been astoundingly positive from this tool. So, without any further ado, I am going to say goodbye, and I hope this has been helpful to you. I hope that this is something that you can utilize in your healing, and that you'll like, subscribe, and come on back for another video another time. I'm so glad that you were here, and I hope you have a wonderful day.